Welcome back to part 2. In this video, we replace the rocker cover gasket. Welcome back to this gasket replacement, and as you can see, the state of this gasket and the amount of things I did wrong. Anyway, let's get back to it. So it's just about removing the old gasket. There's the spark plug holders that was leaking oil, as you saw on the actual coil packs themselves. You just got to ease them up and release them. These weren't even brittle. These haven't even done 1,000 miles, but where I've done it wrong, I've just decided to replace it all. I own my wrongs. So this is the valve chain tensioner tool, and you've got to put it in a hole just next to the valve chain. So this is how it should sort of line up. Now, if you watch any of my other videos, I always tell you to hand tighten these things first, because if you use tools, you could easily cross thread them. But when you use your hand, it's much harder to cross thread these sort of things. So always hand tighten first and make sure everything's okay. Now, when you put this in, it can be a bit tricky. Look, I lost it there. Yeah, let's use my little magnet tool. This tool's so handy. And there you go, pull it back out. But yeah, back to the tensioner tool. You've got to make sure it's in the right place and located correctly. It's a bit fiddly, but you'll get there. Link in the description where to buy that from. So the simple matter of just removing the gasket and cleaning up the mating surfaces as best as you can. Now, the better you clean it, the better you're going to get a seal. You don't really want no gunk and mess there, because it's not going to help you. So just take your time and clean it. It's a labour of love, but it is what it is. As you can see, I'm just marking the chain just to make sure it doesn't move. And I'm using my wife's favourite nail varnish. Hope she doesn't watch this video. But just mark the tensioner and the chain so you know it hasn't moved, or it hasn't moved too much, because you don't want these cams to move. It's unlikely the way we're doing it, but it's just best to make sure, you know. So now we're just tightening up the cam chain tensioner tool, which will compress the cam chain adjuster or the solenoid, and just give us a little bit of slack in the chain, because we're going to need that to remove the other gasket that's actually underneath the variable valve timing module. So this is where the variable valve timing module is, because this is a BAM engine, slightly one of the better ones, to be honest. You just got to remove these Torx. I believe they're 20 or 25. Just get yourself a Torx kit, it'll be alright. You've got 3 on the outside and 1 on the inside. That electric ratchet is amazing. I don't think you guys understand how useful that ratchet is. Get one. Click on the link in the description and just get one. So now I've released all the screws. I've got a little bit of movement, just enough movement to get the gasket underneath there, which is where the half moon seal lives. So right, once again, you won't have to do this if you've got some of the other models. I don't believe the APK have got it, and some of the other models ain't got it. I believe only BAM has this variable valve timing module here, which is kind of like the Hondas have got. I shouldn't be saying Audi and Honda in the same way, but this particular module on the side, every car hasn't got it. But this is the gasket removing, and we can see the state of this. It was ready for removal. Look, it's just degraded on my finger. Little rust spots. I don't even know what it is, but it's not meant to be like that. It's meant to be brand new and ready to seal. So this is a bit of a close-up on it. It only goes in one way, so when you're replacing it, it's not difficult. You won't lose your way with it. It only goes in one way. So it just uses those locator plugs to get it to sit itself in. But we've still got to remove the half moon rubber gasket that's just located next to the chain, that kind of cream color thing. And yeah, that's where we've got to just try and get at this gasket and remove it. So with a pick, we just prong it and try and drag it out the best we can. As you can see, my little pick went straight through it. This is a very kind of fidgety job to do, because there's very little access. You can do it, it's just very difficult to film. But yeah, as you can see, I've got my head in the way and all that sort of nonsense. You can get it out, but it's just a little bit fidgety to film. But this is one of the major gaskets that cause a lot of problems in terms of oil leaks and all that sort of stuff. So just do your best to get it out. Do what you've got to do. This mechanic work isn't really glamorous. And there you go. You can see the state of this one when it zooms in. Zoom. Yeah, it's a bit beaten up. You can see the heat started to affect it. It started to warp a bit. And yep, this is what we've got to remove. So once again, labour of love is cleaning. So we're cleaning up all the mating surfaces where that gasket goes. We're underneath, we're over the top, anywhere where it goes. It's a bit difficult to see, but you've just got to do your best. Like I said, it's got to sound silly, but they say the key to painting is in the prep work, and the key to making sure these seals do not leak is in the cleaning. The cleaner you get these surfaces, the better. And it sounds meticulous, it sounds nonsense, and it sounds like I'm going on and on and on. But that is where all the value is. So make sure you clean it up. I'm just using a bit of blade cleaner. I don't really want too much to go to the engine, into the engine. So I've used a bit of card just to defend it. But then I realised it was just nonsense. I could just do what I need to do, and if I have to change the oil a little bit later, I'll change the oil. Use whatever you can to touch the surfaces, screwdriver, pick, whatever it is. Try not to scratch the surface, not even try. Do not scratch the surface. And yeah, make sure it's all right. So now I'm just using a bit of compressed air just to blow out anything I might have missed. And just like I said, we're just trying to focus on making the best surface possible for this for these gaskets to go on. And as you can see, I've got a plastic razor because the plastic won't scratch the mating surfaces. So yeah, more of this tedious just going around scraping, trying to clean, scrape, trying to clean, trying to get everything off it, because realistically you don't want to do this job twice, and for 10 or 15 minutes of extra work it's just worth doing it. It's just a no-brainer. So put the effort in, do it right, because there's nothing more expensive or time consuming than doing it twice. So do it 2-3 times, as many times as you need to do it, and make sure it's clean. The cleaner the better. I can't go on about it enough. The cleaner the better. Make it clean, make your job easier. You can see I'm just doing the same thing again, even with the spark plug holders. I'm just doing the same thing. I'm using the plastic razor in my hand. You can also get them from Amazon or my website. Just scrape it off. Just scrape off anything that might resemble any residue. So now we're moving on to the rocker cover gasket. And it's the same situation. It's just clean, clean, clean. There we go. That little plastic razor is amazing. It just gives you that reassurance that you're not tearing up the cylinder head to the rocker cover gasket to bits. And yeah, all the little bits of RTV will come off. Now the RTV cures at heat, so you know you don't have to worry about it when you initially put it on. But just make sure you clean it up afterwards and hoover and get rid of it. As you can see, I'm doing here. Oh, this is really enjoyable to watch. Back again with the razor. It's a second cleaning. Look at that. I'm actually enjoying this. Are you guys enjoying it? Don't forget to click the like, hit the like button or the thumbs up button so we can make sure other people see it and I can make more content. At least I know what you like. But the procedure is all the same. Just clean, clean, clean. Go over it again. Do it again. And it can't be too clean for what you're trying to do here. Little blow off with the air. I'm lucky I've got an air compressor now, but you don't have to have it. And there you go. Okay, so here's the new parts. Febby, German, and that's how the gasket's supposed to look. Look at that. Look at all those rubber seals. Looks brand new. It is brand new. That's the half moon. It probably started out that colour. And these are what we're putting back into the this is what we're replacing. And you can see it had been done a long time, and that's how good it looks. Febby's original OEM. So yeah, they're really good quality parts, German, I believe. So So yeah, make sure you try and get something that's good, because like we say, we don't want to do it twice. Now, reinstalling this half moon gasket is actually quite difficult to see on camera, and it's actually quite difficult to do in general. So you got to do a lot of this stuff blind. This is what a lot of mechanic and maintenance work is. You got to do some things blind. You can't always get great shots and camera views. Hence why I take so much time to remove stuff out of the way. So I'm going in through this side, and I'm not saying this is the only way to do it. I'm just telling you how I've done it and how I've tried to do it. And just try and do whatever way is easiest to you. So then you push it over, and you should feel it just drop in and lip over. Use whatever tools you can. There is no real sequence on this one. Use whatever tools you can. Make sure it's sitting in right. Push it in, double check it, triple check it, and just make sure it's sitting in right. My head's all in the way because that's how difficult it was to get this shot. But I wanted to do it right because I didn't want to get it wrong. So here's the that little flat black Gasket, which I said only goes one way. And you've just got to just shimmy it in. There's no other way. It only goes in one way and hits the locating spots. And once you've hit the locating spots, you know, because it's really, really firm and secure. So yeah, just try and wangle, wingle, and try and get it in. It's not very easy to do. It's not very easy to film. So you're going to be doing a lot of stuff by feel. And, you know, I would advise that you take your time, look at it, make sure it's sitting down correct before you move any further with it. That would be my advice. But like I said, I'm doing a lot of this blind. You can't see it, I can't see it. But I've just sat everything down to make sure it fits and feels all right, and there's no bouncing, and there's nothing that feels like it's interfering. If you have to, lift it up, put it back down and go again. But just make sure it's fitting right. That's all I can really tell you. You know? And look at it, view it, get some light in there. Really, really difficult to really see, but it should feel like it wants to be there, if that makes sense. It shouldn't be repelling that much. Once you're happy with how it is, just throw a few screws in there. I actually just threw one in the middle at the moment, just to keep it there and reassess what it looks like. Because once again, hand tighten, always hand tighten, and just get an idea of if it's all right and if it sits all right. How close it is to the actual body itself, and you can see it sits really nice. And I've only done that hand tight, so you know nothing's been forced on it or anything like that. Continue to drop the other screws in. Take your time, get them all in there, and just do your due diligence with them. And don't forget the one inside the engine as well, or inside the rocker cover as well. Okay, so now once you've sorted that out, we're just going to snug down these screws, and yeah, just snug them down. You don't have to tighten them down yet, because we're going to tighten them properly with a torque wrench. The success on this in particular is dependent on the torque settings that you do on the actual rocker cover itself. So all we're doing, we're just running them down and making sure they're kind of snug. So here is my torque wrench, my 3/8 torque wrench. And this is really the gem in the crown, because this is what's going to make sure we're doing our job properly. Torque wrench will make sure that everything's tied up to specification, so you will not have any problems. If you do it like this, you're doing a professional job. So make sure you get one of these torque wrenches. Once again, the link will be in the description. So now we're just tightening up these screws at the specification of 7 foot-pounds or 10 Newton meters. I prefer foot-pounds to be fair, but just make sure you tighten them up to that spec, and you're pretty good. Once you've tightened them up, just go over the rest of them to make sure that they're also at spec, because what tends to happen is when you tighten one, it kind of makes the other one looser, if that makes sense. So you pull down one, it makes it looser, and then when you go over them, you'll start to feel that they're all to spec. So that's why you tighten them up, then you go back over them to make sure that they're all down at exactly the same torque settings. So this is what's going to make your job perfect, so to speak. Okay, so now we're just releasing the tensioner, the little tensioner we got there, and just hand loosen it. I was doing it by hand, but then I decided just to use my electric ratchet. Remember, I told you guys, this is the tool that you need that you never knew you needed. Absolutely fantastic just for them little tedious tasks. Now for the gasket, the rocker cover gasket itself, I'm just making sure that there's no dirt in any places that's going to hinder our seal. So with a screwdriver with a little pick, just getting in nooks and crannies to make sure there's no dirt, residue, debris, anything in those corners that could affect the seal of the gasket when I put down. So you can see I'm just blowing out anything, any sort of nonsense that's around. Just making sure that that surface, that mating surface is 100% clean, because making sure it's clean is going to help you. It's the main thing to keeping this sealed as well. It's just these little fundamental things that make all the difference. I know I might be going on and I might have repeated myself, but as much as I've repeated myself, that is how important it is to do those things to make sure you get the result you want. I'm just cleaning that inside of the holes there because they had some oil in it from before, and I'm cleaning the surfaces here. Just make sure they're clean. Once again, I know I'm going on again, but this is the difference. So here's my gasket set, and you can buy them separately. You're going to have to buy the half moon separate from the main gasket itself. You can buy these separately, and they're pretty cheap. I think this cost me £20 or £15, something to around that sort of effect. But just get one with good reviews so you know what you're doing with it. There you go, I'm just stripping it down and we're going to be getting on to actually fitting it now. Let me look at it. So, yep, here's a spark plug holder. Make sure you get it the right way around. It's just sided, it's not actually back and front, but just get it the right way around. You'll know it straight away. It only goes on one way realistically. And we are just putting some RTV silicone in the areas that cause problems. So anywhere where the gasket changes direction, folds, that's where you kind of want to put it. It's mainly in the corners, to be fair, but just put them in them areas just to extra backup. It's what the manufacturer's spec says. Once you've done that, you just want to drop your gasket on. One shot, one kill. You don't want to be going up and down with this. So just fit it in, make sure it's sitting in all the grooves, and like the better quality gasket you get, the better it fits. So bear that in mind. Don't always go for cheapest. Look for reviews. Look for things that make sense, and put your gasket on. I'm just sitting it all down in there. A bit tedious, but just do these little details. No one wants oil leaks. No one wants to do the job twice. So with your covers, your rocker covers, your cam covers, I should say, just make sure they go back on, and then it's time to slap on the actual valve cover itself. Bit finicky. Make sure everything's out of the way so it just slips down and sits on it properly. Okay, so now it's time to just slide everything back on. Now you should have your nuts available in your little dish or wherever you've put them, and we're just going to put the car back together, loosely put it back together. Now once again, just take your time. Always hand tighten first, because we don't want to cross thread with power tools or electric ratchets or anything like that. So just try and get it hand tightened first, with the intention to snug it up a little bit later. Now once again, the tool that you never knew you needed is this electric ratchet. It's the best thing ever. It's just so handy, so useful. Just take your time and snug everything up. Now you're not tightening it, you're just doing that the extra ratchet work, the extra hand work that you wouldn't have to do. So it's not about tightening to specification, because we've actually got the torque wrench to take over that job. And yeah, just get it snugged down and prepare for torquing, or I should say the torque specification. That tool is absolutely fantastic. I can't recommend it enough. I can't tell you how much times I use that. Absolutely brilliant. Okay, so now with your torque wrench, we're going to do it to specification of 7 foot-pounds. Now the sequence for this is really to start from the middle outwards, but I had already started this already, and I've only just caught you halfway through. So what you want to do is you start from the middle and you go outwards, just to make sure that you keep it on a flat plane. Now to be honest, it's not as important on the rocker cover as it would be on a head gasket, because the tolerances are slightly different and there's a bit more leeway up here. So what you want to do is at 7 foot-pounds, just start to tighten it down. Now, what you need to remember with this is as you tighten them down, the other ones get loose. So you need to go around and make sure that they are tight. So once you've done everything at 7 foot-pounds, you go around and check everything, because like I said, as you tighten everything down, it does make the other ones a bit more loose. But this is going to be really the, this is one of the most important things, making sure it's down to spec, because this is what's going to keep your seal. When I did it before, I did it on a bit of guesswork, and one part was tighter than the other, and it just created leaks, which was just a nonsense really. So make sure you got your torque specs and torque regs correct. So now we're just fitting it back together now. Now we've done the crux of the job and the main part of the job. We're just putting everything back together as it came off. So the timing belt butt cover gets clipped on. We're cleaning up the coil packs because it had a bit of oil residue. Now I've used brake cleaner on this just because it evaporates really good and doesn't really leave a residue from what I can tell. And rather than have the oil sitting in there, I've just decided just to clean it out, which makes sense. Giving it a little clean inside there, tried to break down some of the oils that was on the spark plugs and put the coil packs back in the order that they came off in. Now here you're going to see me put on the coil pack loom. These can be quite brittle, so you've got to be a bit careful with these. Just handle them accordingly, because we have got a classic car here and at some stage they will need replacing. So we fasten down the earth strap on the injector loom, and we're just systematically taking our time and putting everything back together. Anything that you can remember to go back together, just put it back together. You just need to take time and make sure you're doing the job right. Now, torque specifications aren't so important on these parts because they're not really mechanical function parts, so to speak, and they've got no seals. They're just clamps and holds, so you can just do that by your own kind of judgment really. Not too tight, not too loose. So charge pipe goes on and straps up with a Jubilee kick with your 7mm socket, as we showed in the initial removal. And it's just about meticulously going through everything and making sure everything's together. Keeping your wits about you. If you're unsure and you're a beginner, take a photo before actually starting this. A photo will help you remember what you're meant to put back and what you're not meant to put back. So if you're a novice, I would advise that. Everyone's got a camera phone nowadays, and it just gives you a bearing on where things go. If, like I said, if you're a novice, put screws back in the place that they came from, and if you can't, put them in a metal tin like I've got there or something similar. And you should be able to work out going backwards what you've done. Here I'm putting on a diverter valve and all the breather components that go back to the engine. There's quite a few things that I need to repair on this car. I hardly ever drive this car, but it's a labour of love. I just like the car, to be fair, and I just leave it in my garage. I hardly drive it. So now we've got everything back together. Just zip it up with the cable with the Jubilee clips. Once again, that electric ratchet comes into play again, just to handle the work that I don't want to do. And yeah, just have a look at anything else that might be outstanding. This breather hose has to go back in, and you can see I'm recovering that nut that I left out before. See, once you put it back into place, it kind of informs you where it should go back. It takes a bit extra time, but on the other end, when it comes to putting it back together, it all makes sense. Let's tidy up and prepare to start the car and check that we've done our job properly. Okay, so it's all started up now, all sounds good, all looks dry. Just got to do a bit of a clean up down here. And the part down there which was really difficult to see down there, down the side, the half moon gasket there was leaking, and that's all tidy now. So yeah, good job. Just about cleaning up now. I'm going to do a little clean up, I think. Get some degreaser and clean off any kind of nonsense that's around. So yeah, that's the next move. Oh.